So Belle Gibson never had cancer. The Australian wellness influencer who built an entire empire on the lie.
Belle Gibson was a strikingly sympathetic and inspirational figure to her legion of followers when she started posting her story on Instagram in 2013.
300,000 Instagram followers, a best-selling cookbook called The Whole Pantry, partnerships with companies like Apple and Penguin Publishing. She documented her journey, how she cured herself through nutrition and determination and love.
She said she was a sick young mum who found her salvation in wholesome foods and natural therapies when conventional medicine failed her. A woman who defied the doctors who told her in 2009 she had an inoperable malignant brain tumour and just 4 months to live. 4 years on, her followers lived every health high and low with her, and fellow cancer sufferers had new reason to hope.
There's no chemo, there's no radiation, just quinoa, green juice, and the power of positive thinking. And she looked radiant. She looked healthy. She looked like proof that you can just believe hard enough and buy the right ingredients and that you could just heal yourself. And people believed her. They bought the app. They bought her book. Some of them, however, people who had actual cancer, rejected conventional treatment because Belle showed them it was possible to do it naturally. Except it wasn't possible because Belle Gibson never had cancer. And she just didn't fake one diagnosis. She faked a whole medical history that would have killed 10 people. Brain cancer, blood cancer, spleen, uterus. She collected terminal illnesses like merit badges. And she made it up. All of it. In 2015, journalists exposed her, and she admitted that she was a fraud. The Australian federal court fined her 410,000 Australian dollars. She hasn't paid a cent. And to this day, no one knows exactly why she did it. Maybe the performance just became more real than reality. Maybe the curated life, the one that got likes, the book deals, the validation, was just easier to inhabit than the actual life that she was living. Micah and James Stauffer never meant to become villains. They were just a nice couple from Ohio, a nurse and an engineer. They had a YouTube channel that they were documenting their family life. In 2017, they adopted a 2.5-year-old boy from China, Huxley, and they brought their audience along for the journey. Huxley was diagnosed with autism, level 3. He needed support. He needed structure. He needed more than Micah and James were equipped to give. But the content performed exceptionally. The videos got views. The sponsorships rolled in, Pampers and Walmart and Fabletics. The Stauffers were building a brand. And then in May 2020, Huxley disappeared from the videos. And the followers noticed. They began to ask questions. And finally, Micah and James posted an update. Huxley had been, quote, rehomed, given to another family. A family better equipped to handle his needs. And the internet exploded. The sponsorships obviously vanished, and people started going back through old footage, old videos, looking for the moment it all went wrong. And they found it. A video where Micah sat on the floor weeping about crushing financial burden of Huxley's special needs care. She was begging for understanding. She was explaining why it was just so hard. But if you look closely at her wrist, you saw it. A Cartier love bracelet. It was gold. $6,000. screwed shut onto her arm. The frame, the video, told the truth that her mouth couldn't. The LeBrant family has 13 million subscribers on YouTube. And to understand this awful story, you have to look at the origin story. And it begins with a guy named Cole. Cole LeBrant didn't start as a wholesome Christian dad like he presents in his videos. He started on Vine. He was part of a trio called Dim White Boys. They made videos of themselves shirtless, twerking, acting like frat bros. It was shallow, stupid, but it was viral. It was effective. But when Vine died, Cole needed to pivot. So he conveniently found Jesus. And then he found Savannah. Savannah was a Christian fashion blogger who already had a daughter, Everly, from a previous relationship. And when Cole put Everly in a video, his numbers spiked. And then he realized something that every marketing major knows. You can sell bro humor for a little while, but with wholesome family, you can sell that forever. And he just didn't fall in love with a family. He fell in love with a business model. He fell in love with money. In 2018, the LeBrants uploaded a video called, quote, "We left our house because of fires in California." And the thumbnail is terrifying. It's Cole looking panicked, and the narrative is clear. They are refugees in their own state, fleeing the flames to save their children. Except it was all a lie. Residents in their neighborhood confirmed that there was no evacuation order. The fire was actually miles away. They were never in any danger. But, quote, staying home and watching the news doesn't get views. Evacuating the family, however, does. They didn't flee disaster. They scouted a location, they storyboarded a video, and they turned a tragedy affecting their neighbors into a backdrop to their own content. And it gets darker. If you sort through their more popular videos, the ones with tens of millions of views, you begin to notice a pattern. It's not the sermons, it's not the pranks, but it's the thumbnails of his girls in bathing suits, doing gymnastics, stretching. The data analytics surrounding family vlog channels like this is incredibly disturbing. You would expect it to be other moms and kids and families. But for the LeBrants and other family blogs, the demographics skew heavily male, sometimes young to middle-aged men. Cole and Savannah know how the internet works. They know how the algorithm rewards. And they know that the algorithm doesn't care why someone is clicking on a thumbnail of a 6-year-old in a bikini in the backyard pool. It just cares that they clicked. They are feeding their children to the machine, one thumbnail at a time, then profiting thousands of dollars on each video. It gets worse. In 2018, they uploaded a video titled simply, quote, "Cancer." The thumbnail showed their daughter looking devastated. Millions clicked, terrified for the child. But she wasn't sick. The video was a documentary about another family's tragedy. But the LeBrants took someone else's tragedy, someone else's cancer, and wrapped it in their daughter's face to sell ads. It doesn't matter what the truth is, it matters what the click is worth. But what happens when you've been playing this game so long? The Vine twerking to fake fires to clickbait cancer that you don't even remember what the truth was. And if you're someone like Cole LeBrant, you wouldn't know what truth was if it bit you in the ass. Which brings me to the most devastating story of them all. Ruby Franke started her vlog in 2015. Just a mom in Utah with 6 kids and a YouTube channel called 8 Passengers. By 2020, she had racked up 2.5 million subscribers. Her videos had amassed 1 billion views. This wasn't just a hobby. It was a media corporation. And the product was discipline. You see, Ruby figured out a niche. While other family vloggers were selling chaos and fun, Ruby was selling control. She was the strict mom, the mom who didn't raise brats, and the comment section loved it. They actually called her a hero. They asked her for advice, and she loved it. She gave it to them. She filmed herself taking away her son's bedroom for 7 months, for example, simply because he played a prank on his brother. 7 months, sleeping on a beanbag. And she filmed it, she edited it, and she uploaded it. She titled it, quote, "My son lost his bedroom." It got millions of views. She filmed herself refusing to bring a lunch to her 6-year-old daughter's school because the girl had forgotten it at home. And when the teacher called, worried that the child was hungry, Ruby told the camera with a smile she wouldn't bring the food because the 6-year-old needed to, quote, "feel the pain of irresponsibility." She monetized her daughter's hunger. She turned it into a lesson for the audience. But as the channel grew, the control grew with it. The perfect family narrative required perfect compliance. And when the cameras were off, the director didn't stop directing. She just started to use harsher tools. And those tools were provided by her accomplice, a woman named Jodi Hildebrandt. In her journals, which were later recovered by the police, she didn't write like a mother. She wrote more like a religious prison warden. She described her own children as manipulative and evil. She wrote about shaving their heads. She wrote about withholding water and food. She wrote, quote, "These are the days of my life. I'm in a penitentiary with a demon." She wasn't talking about a criminal. She was talking about her young son. She had convinced herself that this abuse was love, that starvation was cleansing. She was trying to edit out the, quote, sin out of them, the same way she was editing a vlog. It came to a head in August 30th, 2023. That, quote, demon, who was a 12-year-old boy, escapes from the window of Jodi Hildebrandt's house in Ivins, Utah. He escapes to a neighbor's house. He's emaciated. He has open wounds on his wrists and ankles from where he had been bound with duct tape. And when the police arrived, they searched Jodi Hildebrandt's house where they were living. They find his 10-year-old sister in a closet, so malnourished, she had to be hospitalized immediately, along with her brother. Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt are now serving 4 consecutive sentences of 1 to 15 years in prison. But here's the detail that haunts me and should haunt you. While her children were starving and bound in Jodi Hildebrandt's house, Ruby and Jodi were still filming. They were still posting advice, and they were still smiling for the camera, playing the role that Ruby Hildebrandt had cast herself in. And in this case, the director never yelled cut, nor her own conscience. The justice system had to do it for her. But here's what I think we all actually missed. All these stories, they didn't start with abuse. It didn't start with extremism. They start with a common denominator. They start with a camera and an audience. And for Ruby Hildebrand, they start when the moment that she realized that the curated version of her life got more love than the real one. And these aren't isolated incidents. They happen all the time. These aren't just bad people who happen to have cameras. This is what happens when the performance becomes the priority, when the aesthetic becomes the ethic. Belle Gibson wasn't documenting her recovery. She was manufacturing a wellness fantasy. The Stauffers weren't documenting their adoption. They were producing a reality show where the cast members could not quit. Ruby Franke did not start out as a monster. But the moment money and eyeballs got involved, she stopped being a mother and started being a ruthless director. And when the real life didn't match the story that she was selling, she didn't change the story. She just punished the real life until it complied. Ruby Franke is the extreme here. She's grotesque. She's what happens when the disease goes terminal. But the disease is everywhere. Okay, so that was a lot. I know. Let's just take a breath. My name is Patrick Four. This is the Terrible Photographer Podcast, and today is episode 39. I'm calling it The Curator's Disease. If this is your first time here, I'm sorry. This one is a little bit more intense, but also welcome. These episodes are in no particular order, so feel free to jump around. And as always, you can email me anytime with questions or thoughts, existential spirals, hate mail. I try to respond to everything. My email is in the show notes. Okay, so today we're talking about validation and ego and the cost of turning your life into content. Okay, I'm going to interrupt myself. I'm actually recording this after I recorded the podcast and then I started to edit. I just want to interject myself with myself and clarify something I think is extremely important. Before we go any farther, I need to make this really important distinction because I just really compared finding good light, quote unquote, to Ruby Franke. And that's, well, intense. And I listened to myself say it and I was like, man, that's pushing it. So I just wanted to really underscore something and I really want you to hear me. I am not saying that if you move your kid into a better light for a photo, you are a monster or grotesque. Listen, I am a photographer. I absolutely love light. I love composition. And if my daughter is playing in the backyard and the sun is hitting the orange tree just right, I'm absolutely going to frame that shot. This is not pathology. This is art. Wanting to make a beautiful image of a beautiful moment is not the disease. I think the disease is interruption. There is a massive difference between seeing something beautiful and capturing it versus stopping a moment to manufacture it. There is a difference between noticing the light and dragging your kid out of their life and their experience to stand in the light because it fits your grid or aesthetic. It's the difference between documenting your life because you love it and directing your life because you're trying to sell it or sell something. So if you take beautiful photos of your family, awesome, keep doing it. But if you find yourself pulling your kids out of their reality to serve your aesthetic or brand, that's what we're talking about today. Okay, let's get back to the episode. All right, so social media didn't invent this. Social media is really just the distribution channel. The disease, I think, was already there. The platforms just gave it a stage and a monetization strategy. A feedback loop that turned a low-grade cultural neurosis into a full-blown epidemic. And honestly, it doesn't matter which platform is worse. They're all running the same con. They've all gamified human connection. They've turned your life and my life into a performance metric. Views, likes, subscribers, followers, different words for the same drug. This, however, is about something bigger, something older. This is about the professionalization of living. We have taken the tools, the aesthetics, the strategies of commercial image making, things that were designed to sell stand mixers and luxury sedans, and we've imported them into our personal lives. We location scout our own weekends. We style our kids for the park. We only shoot in good light. We treat families like supporting cast in a movie where we're the protagonist. And we hide everything that doesn't serve that central narrative. And it's not just photographers or filmmakers, it's everyone. Take the wannabe mom influencer at the park. She isn't just pushing her kid on the swing because her kid enjoys that. She's checking the lighting. She's dressed the kid in muted neutrals because she knows that neon doesn't look good on the grid. She might even drive to the park across town because that is a higher income park and she wants to be seen in the right area. She's not a professional, but she really is art directing her life. She's thinking about engagement. She's thinking about perception. She's thinking about which caption will get the quote, "You're such a good mama" comment. She's not living, she's actually producing. Why? Validation, sure. Humans were starved for it. We've outsourced our self-worth to an algorithm. It's complete strangers. We don't feel like we're doing it right unless the metrics confirm it. But it's not just validation. I think there's ego in this too, you know? It's ambition, the chance to be seen, to have a platform, to matter, to be relevant, to be the main character in a story that other people are watching. And here's the dark, honest truth. It's easier to curate a perfect life than it actually is to live one. It's easier to present a varnished, color-graded facade of a life that we think we should be living than it actually is to do the work of living it. And so we perform, we curate, we edit, we hide the mess, and we only show the approved scenes. And eventually, we convince ourselves that the story we're telling is actually real. And it's not. It's a commercial. And the problem is we're both the product and the creative director. So let's look at how the sausage is actually made. And by sausage, I mean the aspirational lifestyle you're trying to replicate on a Tuesday. I want us to look at a Lululemon campaign, or really any high-end athleisure brand. You know the images. You can probably picture them in your head. The perfect Saturday morning at the park. The lighting is soft and golden. The outerwear is curated. The family looks healthy, hydrated, and ridiculously happy. Or it's a vision of a Sunday morning where no one is hungover, there's no kids screaming, and everyone has their shit together. Again, ridiculously happy. When you see that image, it burns into your subconscious. You want the leggings for sure. but mostly you want the feeling of that Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. But here is what I know, because I have been in these rooms for a long time. That image isn't a moment. It's a planned strategy. That, quote, casual Saturday afternoon, it started 6 months ago in a glass-walled conference room. There were art directors building mood boards, debating about emotional impacts of, quote, playing at a park versus hiking on a trail. There were creative directors pitching concepts to product managers. There were arguments about budget, about casting, and about whether the mom looked relatable enough or too aspirational, aka too attractive. There were teams of people deciding exactly how the sunlight should hit the hoodie to make you feel like your life could be that peaceful. They aren't just selling you yoga pants. They're selling you the set design that surrounds it. But the problem is, the consumer, us, we don't just see the mood board. We don't see the budget meeting. We just see the life. And when the brain worm burrows in, you start to believe that in order to be happy, to be a good parent or a healthy person or a successful human, your life needs to look like that advertising campaign. You adopt the Lululemon brand into your own main character energy. So what happens? We begin to subtly reverse engineer our own existence. We don't just go to the park to go to the park. We go to the park to perform the Lululemon marketing. We style the kids. We scout the light. We act like the joyful family afternoon that was invented by a marketing team in Vancouver to sell polyester blends. We aren't just buying the product. We're attempting to recreate the production. And that is where the professionalization of living becomes dangerous, because Lululemon had a $100,000 budget and a crew of 20 people to make that Saturday look effortless. You are trying to do it alone with a toddler who is hungry and needs a nap, and a spouse who's annoyed, and a dog that won't sit still. You're trying to hit a commercial production standard of a home video budget, and you wonder why you're exhausted. You're exhausted because you're working an unpaid internship for a lifestyle brand that doesn't even know that you exist. So I want to tell you about a shoot that I did a few years ago. I'm not going to name the client because I don't really trash talk clients, and because the specifics don't matter. This really could be any shoot. This could be every shoot. It was for a kitchen appliance brand, mid-tier. Very good product, actually. The campaign was a family connection. You know the vibe. Multi-generational, warm, authentic, the kind of thing where the tagline could be something like bringing families together one meal at a time. So we casted a family, not a real family, obviously, but people who look like a real family. We pulled profiles from a casting site, looked at headshots, demographics, age ranges. We needed a dad in his early 40s, a mom in late 30s, 2 kids, 1 preteen, 1 younger, maybe a grandparent if the budget allowed. And so we booked them. They showed up and they looked amazing. I mean, they looked like this platonic ideal of an aspirational American family. The dad had the right amount of silver in his beard. The mom had this kind of effortless style that suggested that she just threw this on, but looked amazing. The 2 kids were cute, but they weren't too cute. They were diverse enough to check all the boxes, but not so diverse that it would alienate middle America. On paper, perfect. But when we started shooting, something was a little off. The chemistry wasn't there. It was a little awkward. They looked great standing next to each other, but they didn't feel like a family. The interactions were stiff. The smilings were a half second too late. The mom would touch the dad's shoulder, but in an awkward way. It just looked like she was touching a stranger, which, to be fair, she was. So we had to work with them. We had to manufacture it. We had to coach them. And there was a technical machinery that takes over. And to get the look right, I'm shooting tethered. I'm shooting at f4 because we need everyone sharp, but the background to be soft. The key light is actually a large wall of windows off to the side of the kitchen. I have gaff tape sealed gridded silk on the outside, and I'm aiming two 1,000 watt Pro Photo strobe umbrellas at it. And I've got a reflector on the right to fill some shadows. It's not flat, but forgiving. It's really soft. There's a simple hair light behind them mounted above a cabinet. It's just bright enough to separate them from the background. Everything is controlled, everything is designed, thought through. And I'm watching the live view on this monitor, and I'm looking at the histogram. I'm making sure that skin tones land where I want them to be. And the client is standing behind me and they're nodding. The art director is checking their phone. The producer is staring at iPad, stressing about getting through the shot list. And I'm directing. Okay, Dad, lean in a little. Mom, tilt your head a little bit towards him. Kids, look at the food, not at the camera. Laughing now, bigger, hold it. And we shoot for 10 hours. I take close to 1,000 images and complete the 12 photos that we needed. It looked perfect. It looked real. The client loved it. It tested well, probably sold a lot of product. But here's the thing, right? Here's the unspoken truth. It was all a lie. Every single frame. The family didn't exist. The location, we paid for it. The moment didn't exist. The warmth, the connection, the intimacy, it was all engineered, dialed in, calculated. Even the subtle streak of warm light on the back cabinets, it was all fake. It was all planned. And that's fine. That's my job. That's what I get paid to do, and I'm really good at it. I manufacture aspiration for a living, and my goal is to show people a life that they could be living but aren't yet, and if they would only buy the product that I'm photographing. It's a commercial. Everyone knows it's a commercial. Nobody is confused. Except, I think, we are confused because we've stopped being able to tell the difference. And not to be arrogant or whatever, but I'm fucking good at this. I can do this better than most people. And I do, because this is my job. I know what will work and what doesn't. I know how to style. I know how to position people so that it flatters them and the product. I know how to make the light bend to my will. And I know how to manufacture a moment that looks spontaneous, but actually was planned 3 days in advance. And it's really hard to turn this off. No, that's not true. It's impossible to turn that off. So when I look at my own life, when I look at the tens of thousands of photos that I've taken of my family over the years, I have to admit something. The photos look a hell of a lot better than my actual life. And I'm not saying that my life is bad. Objectively, my life is pretty goddamn good. I live in San Diego. I have a family. I have a border collie. I get to do the work that I care about. And if you look at my feed, you'd probably think that my life was pretty cool, that my life was borderline aspirational. We have photos of epic hikes in Washington where we used to live. We have sunset wave frolicking with my family and Loki on the beach. We have ice cream cones at farmers market on perfect Sunday mornings here in San Diego. We have road trips, golden hour family portraits, all the things that I want to show people, all the moments that I have approved as a creative director to show people. But here's what I haven't shown you. I have not shown you the toddler meltdowns, the diaper blowouts at 2 a.m., the moments early on where I was so exhausted and frustrated that I put her in the crib and I closed the door and I sat on the floor in the hallway with my head in my hands, and the times that I yelled, the times that I thought I failed, and the nights that I lie awake thinking that I was a failure as a father, as a husband, as a human being. These moments I hide from because they don't contribute to the story that I'm creating. They don't serve the main character storyline. The images when things are real and they're messy and complicated and hard, those moments, I hide them because they don't contribute to the story that I'm creating. They don't serve the main character storyline. The images when things are real and messy and complicated and hard, those aren't the supporting cast narrative that I want to show people. And so I curate, I edit, I location scout my own life. I only post the approved scenes. I manufacture the intimacy. I art direct my own existence. And I know there's a cost to this. So this cost that I talk about, this cost isn't just internal. It's not just the exhaustion of maintaining the illusion. It's not just the gap between what I show and what I feel. The cost is actually external because every curated post, every carefully framed moment, every aspirational image I put out into the world, it's a contagion. It's a toxin. It infects everyone who sees it. Here's how it works. You see my beach sunset with my family. It looks beautiful. It looks effortless. It looks like the kind of life you aren't living. And even if you consciously know it's curated, even if you tell yourself, he probably took 50 photos to get that one, there's still a tiny voice in the back of your head that says, why doesn't my life look like that? And that voice grows, it metastasizes, because it's not just my photo, it's everyone's photo. Your feed is an endless scroll of other people's best moments. It's a highlight reel, the approved scenes, the art-directed lives. And no matter how good your life is, no matter how objectively fortunate or happy or stable you are, there's always someone whose life appears to be better, someone whose kids are better behaved, whose vacations are more exotic, whose kitchen is cleaner, whose house is bigger, whose marriage looks happier, whose everything looks more put together. And you start feeling like you're not enough, like you're failing, like you're the bad parent, a bad partner, a bad human, because your life doesn't look like the commercial. But here's the sick joke. Their life doesn't look like the commercial either. They're curating too. They're hiding the messes. They're performing too. We're all performing. We're all lying. We're all infecting each other with a toxic dose of comparison that leaves us, no matter how good our lives actually are, feeling like we're not good enough. And look, I am complicit. I am not the victim in this system. I am a participant. I am spreading the disease. Every time I post a curated moment, I'm contributing to the problem. I'm manufacturing aspiration, not for a product, but for my own life. And in doing so, I'm making you feel like yours isn't good enough. I'm poisoning you, and I know it, and I can't stop. Okay, so here's what I used to think. I thought social media made us curators. I thought that the platforms trained us to see our lives as content. I thought the algorithm rewarded performance and we just adopted to survive. But I don't think that's true anymore. I think we were already curators and we were already performing. We were already desperate for validation, for approval, for proof that we were good enough. Social media didn't create the disease. It just gave us distribution. It gave us an audience. It gave us a feedback loop. And it turned a low-grade human neurosis, the desire to be seen, valued, to matter, into a full-time job. Ruby Franke didn't start abusing her children because of YouTube. She probably already had the impulse. The camera just gave her a reason to justify it, to frame it, to turn it into content, to convince herself that the performance was more important than the reality or the welfare of her children. The platform didn't make her a monster. It made her a public monster. And the rest of us, we're not monsters. At least I hope not. We're just tired. We're just trying to feel like we're doing it right, like we matter, like our lives are worth documenting. But somewhere along the way, we've stopped documenting our lives and started directing our life. We've stopped being present and started to produce. We turned our families into a supporting cast. We turned our homes into sets, and we turned our existence into a campaign. And to be honest, I don't know how to stop. And look, here's the truth. The only honest photos are the ones that I didn't take. The meltdowns in the grocery store, the fights with Jamie at 10 p.m. We were both too exhausted to be kind. The moment where I wake up and I realize that I have no idea what I'm doing as a father. The moment I looked at my daughter and felt nothing but frustration and guilt. Those are sometimes the most real moments. Those are the true images. But I didn't document them because they didn't serve the narrative, because they didn't fit the aesthetic, because I didn't want you to see them. And it's not all negative, right? There are some times when I am in a purely joy-filled moment, when I know that this moment really matters. And the last thing that I want is a camera, because I know the camera would change it. These are all real moments. These are the true images, but I didn't document them because they didn't serve the narrative, because they didn't fit the aesthetic, because I didn't want you to see them. And maybe that's fine. Maybe there should be a boundary. Maybe some things are private because not everything needs to be content. But I think it goes much deeper than that. I don't think it's just about boundaries. I think the problem is that I'm not even living those moments anymore. I'm too busy thinking about whether they're worth photographing, whether they'll perform, whether they will serve the larger story, my personal brand. I've professionalized my own existence. I've turned my life into a client project, and I'm both the creative director and the talent. And to be honest, I'm a little exhausted. And I know I'm affecting you. I know that every time I post a carefully curated moment, I'm contributing to your sense of inadequacy, that I'm making you feel like your life isn't good enough, like you aren't good enough. And I know, and I just can't stop. To be honest, I don't have a solution for you. I don't have a 3-step plan to cure this disease. I don't know how to unprofessionalize my life. I don't know how to stop seeing every moment as a potential composition. I don't know how to turn off the creative director that's living in my head. But I do know this, that we're all sick and that we're all infecting each other, and that the only way that this gets better is if we stop pretending, if we stop curating, is if we stop performing. And maybe that just starts with admitting the truth, that your life doesn't look like your feed. Neither does mine. Nobody's does. We're all lying. And that lie is killing us. And maybe the first step is just honesty. Radical, uncomfortable, unfiltered honesty. Not as content, not as performance, just as fact. That my life is messy. My parenting is inconsistent. My marriage is hard sometimes. My house is cluttered. My kid has meltdowns. I have meltdowns. I don't have it together. I'm not the main character in a movie. I'm just a guy with a camera who's trying to figure out how to be present in his own life. And maybe if we all start saying it, that the disease loses some of its power. Because the disease only works if we all believe this lie. If we believe that everyone else has their shit together, that everyone else's life is better, that we're the only ones struggling. But we're not. We're all struggling. We're all faking it. We're all just trying to feel like that we're enough. And maybe we already are. Look, I'm going to try something, and I challenge you to try it too. It's small, but maybe it's all we've got. The next time I have a moment with my family, a real moment, a messy moment, a moment that doesn't deserve the narrative, I'm not going to reach for the camera. I'm not going to think about the light. I'm not going to position anyone. I'm just going to be there, be present in the moment. And maybe I'll forget what that looked like. Maybe I won't remember the details. Maybe it'll just disappear into the ether like every other undocumented moment in human history. But at least it'll be real. At least I'll have lived it instead of directing it. And maybe that's enough. So stop curating your life. Stop performing for an audience that isn't watching. Stop poisoning yourself and stop poisoning everyone else with that lie. Just live messily, honestly, imperfectly. So until next week, stay curious, stay courageous, and yeah, stay terrible.